To tell her story, but I just want to highlight a few things. There are very few women out there that are true entrepreneurs, and also true, particularly, let's say, in Mexico. There are very few women in the workforce. There are very few women that have made it to the top. There are very few women that have become very large entrepreneurs, both in real estate, but she didn't stop there. She really believes that the source of change is education, and she has created a for-profit university as well. She's also launched an amazing initiative around women and how to help women propel themselves to the top. Sorry about that, Natalia. Beyond that, she is a wife, and she is a mother to 5 children and 2 adopted children from her husband. So she is a little bit and has the capacity to do everything. And with that, it is my great pleasure to introduce Gina.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Susan, for the kind introduction. I have another son, my first husband. He's son number 8. Well, thank you so much, and I would like to thank Susan and the American Society, Randy and her team, to organize this. I have to tell you that I'm very proud to belong to the board of the American Society. The way they handle not only the women roundtables and events that they do, all the diversity that they are in, you know, the way they take care of every single thing in the world, every single problem, every single issue in the Americas, in the region, in the world. And I'm so proud to belong to this amazing board, because they stand behind every single thing that they do and they promise. And I'm so happy to be part of this organization. Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, when Susan invited me to speak a little bit about my life, I'm obviously going to speak about my life, but I wanted to put in 4 issues here that I think was my turning point in 4 issues. One was about resilience, the second about finding a role model and mentor, the third, a real partner in life, and the fourth, about time to leave a legacy. I was born in a family of 5 children. I was number 4, and I was very, very close to my father, very, very close, not so close to my mother. And my father and I, every single day we made plans, we talked. He was a very busy person, but he always found time to spend, you know, many hours with us, and we had this thing that we always had to have breakfast together and dinner together. So one day, you know, we were doing Don Quixote de la Mancha together. Obviously, I was Dulcinea. You know, we would make plans and things. One day, he said, "I need to go to Acapulco to the NBC convention." He was in charge of Televisa, number 2 person in Televisa. And he said, "I have to go to the NBC convention, so I will leave on Friday. We will continue our conversation and your plans on Sunday. Your mother's going to leave very early in the morning. I will leave in the 12 noon flight." So I went to school. We had breakfast. I went to school. At this time, I was 11 years old. So I went to my school. I came back at 2 p.m. with the news that my father's plane had crashed and he had died. And, you know, I honestly didn't understand what was going on. My leader, my friend, my role model had gone. And I mean, at that time, honestly, I didn't know what to do. I didn't cry for weeks. My mother at the time was 38 years old. My eldest brother was 18. My youngest sister was 1. You know, at that time I knew I needed to be resilient. I didn't understand what happened. I didn't understand what was I going to do. As I told you in the beginning, I did not have a good relationship with my mother. Not that I had a bad relationship, I just didn't have a relationship. I was thinking when I was sort of writing my notes here, when was the time that I really started, or my first tear came out of my eyes? This was probably 3 weeks after my father died, and it was the day that I dreamt about my father, that he came to my dream, only my dream, saying that he was okay, that he didn't suffer, and that he was going to be taking care of us from wherever he was. This was the time when I really came into my senses that he was gone. That was the time that I started to cry. This was when I decided that either I was going to be sad many years of my life, or I was going to be resilient. From there, my grandfather took us under his wing, and I started to grow up with him, near him. He was an amazing person. He was always helping Mexico, taking care of the people that needed the most, always following his dreams, his passions, and making from his passion his life. He was a hardworking man, born in Tampico, Mexico, from a working class, family of 8. He was a shoe salesman. The 6 brothers went to ask Henry Ford one day for the first Ford dealership in Mexico. Incredibly enough, they got it. They started the first dealership in Mexico. But my grandfather was never satisfied. He was always frustrated because Mexico was not well communicated between the North and the South, the East and the West. He kept telling the brothers that they should start a radio station. Nobody listened. Until one day, the brothers gave him his share, advising him to lose it as low as possible. On September 5th, 1930, he started the first radio station in Mexico City, XEW, that still now is one of the strongest radio stations in the country. From there, continues his dream and his passion. He started the first television station, Telesistema Mexicano, today Televisa, and the satellite system, uniting Mexico with United States, PanamSat, and then dreaming about starting Univision. He saw the importance of the relationship between the two countries and the importance that telecommunications could do in the development of Mexico and in the United States. This is where I found my role model. I started working in Televisa. That was my first job. I decided to work in the editorial division. I became the head of the area, and I never could understand why there wasn't a publication that spoke to the young generation. All the magazines were speaking to different kinds of people, but never to the young generation. After 3 years in Televisa, I decided to make a new publication that spoke to preteens. It's called Tu. I created it, and now it's still very important in the editorial division of Televisa. But after 3 years of being there, I had 2 children. I married the first time at 19. And I decided that if I stayed in the company that I loved, respected, and admired, I was never going to do anything of my own, anything that really was meaningful. After a great deal of thought, I left and started my own design company, Grupo de Arc. After several years, the Arc grew to be a very successful vertical company that became now my holding company with 8 subsidiaries and over 800 employees. As successful as I was in my business, I was not very good at choosing my husband. The first time I married, as I told you, at 19. What did I want at 19? Obviously, a very cool guy, handsome. That's all I wanted, cool, handsome guy. And that is exactly what I got. After 8 years, at 27, I got divorced. I had 3 beautiful children. Then at 30, I married again. What did I want at 30? I decided I needed somebody completely different than my handsome, cool guy. And I decided I needed somebody very different, very serious, very intelligent, not necessarily fun. I found exactly what I was looking for. I'm being worried that this is live streaming, eh? I'm really. So, I found an economist with an MBA and a PhD on applied math. Not very social. And most important, difficult that he was able to cope with my success. 10 years later, 2 more children, beautiful children, wonderful children, and an affair that made me leave him. I found myself alone and thinking, did I do something wrong? Was being independent or maybe being a successful businesswoman in a country where it was not very ready to have businesswomen successful my fault? No. Honestly, it wasn't my mistake. Instead of trying to find a cool, handsome, or an extreme nerd, intelligent, antisocial, I should have been trying to find a real perfect partner in life. That is exactly what I found, and he's right here sitting next to me. When I was 40 years old, my company was very successful. I had opened a foundation for domestic violence and bullying 3 years ago. I was very satisfied and happy, but it was time for me to think how I was going to leave a legacy in the world I came to be in. I knew I wanted to help in education. I knew education was the only way we were going to change the world. I was not an academic. I didn't have enormous academic credentials, but I knew that was the way and how I was going to leave a legacy. I looked at universities and schools in Mexico, but I honestly didn't find anything that I thought it was worth taking the time and the money and the effort to make a change. I decided that I was going to open my own university with degrees that did not exist, with creative careers that combined creativity with business and entrepreneurship. It took me 8.5 years in research and development, and I always make my business decisions on analyzing what is my worst scenario. In the case of real estate development, I always say, if I get the zoning wrong, if I get the wrong product, if I don't sell the apartments, or if I don't lease the shopping center, I can do this, I can lose money, I can sell at a lower price. In the case of the university, there is no worse scenario. You cannot fail. You cannot fail with the future of students. You cannot fail with the future of education. So it was very tough to decide to go ahead and accept that this had to work. In 2005, we opened Centro with only 70 students. 10 years later, 2015, we moved to a new campus where we grew 10 times in 10 years. Now we have close to 3,000 students, and we have been granted the best university in the country in our class. I would like to show you a 1-minute video of what Centro is, and I will keep on telling you a little bit about the rest of my story. For those who do not know what LEED Platinum is, it is a certification given in the United States for sustainability. And we are the only LEED Platinum full campus in the world, which I think it is very important to teach with example that we have an obligation to the planet, as well as an obligation to the people that need the most from us. And that is our philosophy, and that is what we teach. At Centro, we are now in the process of opening a second campus. It will be in Florida. And that is our next step in the education system, in the education projects. And then 3 years ago, the President of Mexico asked me to represent Mexico at the W20, the initiative at the G20 for women. And in Turkey, it was the first time the W20 started. I went to Turkey, then I went to China, then to Berlin, and now it's the time in Argentina. And I think it was honestly very, very good for me to be selected, not because it was me, but I was from the private sector. And I have nothing, they don't even pay my ticket, which is, I think it is very good because I can speak freely about what I think the women in Mexico need. And it has been an eye-opener also for me to see the other countries, and every country sends two people, two women, and we've been drafting this document that goes to the G20, and that has been extremely important. I'm very proud to represent Mexico in this issue. I also belong to the Committee of 200, which is a women business leader organization. I've been doing that for 17 years. And between that and the W20, I had an idea for a new initiative of education on women. This is, we talk with women. Susan has been helping me a lot on this. We work with women. We talk to women, like initiatives like these that we all try to do as much as we can to try to narrow the gap between men and women. But sometimes, when we talk to younger women and we try to tell them to get empowered and to own the power and to have the power within themselves, there's no place to go. There's no 1-800-POWER, there's no 1-800-mentor. So you are giving a recipe that there's nowhere to find the ingredients. So I decided to create a new education project called Dalia Empower, which are centers, physical centers for empowerment of women, where we are creating courses, 85 courses in 4 different pillars, which is women in business, women entrepreneurs, women in government or diplomacy, and men in relation to women, because we do think that men have to be seen as partners, not as enemies. And we will have these centers open. In January, we'll start with Mexico as the flagship, but we will open Mexico, Peru, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Colombia, Chile, Argentina, Brazil, and United States. And we will also, once you take the Dalia course, which will take 60 hours, which is 2 months, that will be the DNA Dalia. Then you take the specialization depending on if you are an entrepreneur, if you are a woman in business, if you are a woman in the public sector. You take another 2 months of classes, which the classes will not interfere with your job. It will be between, depending on the country you're in, but let's say in Mexico will be from 7 to 9 p.m., 2 times a week. Then you can get to the app, and the idea of the app is that to encourage to do business to business between women. Instead of trying to, if you are in apparel business, if you are in tech business, you want to go into Colombia, you want to go into Argentina, you want to go into anywhere where the Dalia is, you would be having, it's much better to do business to business with women to encourage the level of the business between us instead of trying to find a partner that you might not know. So that is my new idea, and I do think that is something that could help narrow the gender disequality in the world. So I do think that is something that in the near future would make a change. I'm very happy that Dalia is growing. I think I was telling my friends that they did an interview in Bloomberg to me, and they were asking me, I'm sure, Gina, you found so many resistance on Dalia because, you know, so many people are not really ready for this. And I told them, on the contrary, between men and women, I did not find any resistance. You know, the contrary, I have found people that try to help, people that try to do something, I think, more than any other times in the world. I'm sure you're aware of this. Women are there, we are changing many, many things. And it's not a matter of giving us an opportunity, it is a matter of business. We are a business. And, you know, men that do not want to believe that we are a business opportunity, they are leaving money on the table. Because if you have one woman on a board, we are a token. You have to have 2 women on the board. And if you have 2 women on the board, we do make a change. So I do think that that is the way we have to be seen as business opportunities to change the world. And I mean, now I know that I'm happy, I'm satisfied, and I know that one of the ways to find happiness is to understand that the day you leave the world, you left it a little bit better than the day you came. So I'm happy to be here with you, and I'm happy for questions and answers. Thank you. Any question?
Hi, good morning, Gina, and thank you so much for sharing your story. For sharing your story with us. You're an inspiration, and you're so bold, and you think big, and we need that. So thank you. I'm really interested in learning about Dalia, and I do think that guidance and mentorship really is the reason why a lot of motivated, smart women can't carry their dreams forward. You have a lot of successful women in the room today. If somebody wants to get involved and help, what do they do with Dalia?
You know, the page in Dalia will be ready, the full page, in about 3 weeks, but we have now a page where you can put your name and your info. Is daliaempower.com. That's it, no? I think we'll do it like this because Randy is looking at me with eyes that I don't want Randy to get mad. Thank you so much. I'm going to be here, so anything that you need, I'll give you Dalia's cards, and I'm so happy to be with you. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I'm Apida. Gina, thank you for those wonderful and very inspiring remarks. I know we have somebody in the audience from Panama who's going to volunteer, actually 2 people, maybe 3. As our panelists join me on stage, I'll give a brief overview of today's conference. At the conclusion of this panel, we're going to ask everyone to leave the Bolivar and dining rooms, these 2, so our team can prepare for lunch.